Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast. Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold. Touchdown! Every hit, every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Dome Discussions Podcast. Today I'm joined by Caleb Yacarino, and we have some trades to discuss as the trade deadline has officially passed. The New Orleans Saints made two moves on, I believe it was Tuesday, yes. And one of them stung a little bit. One of them was a surprise. I'd like to talk about the surprise first because we'll probably talk a bit more about the one that stung. But Trevor Penning was moved to the Los Angeles Chargers, something that none of us saw coming. We all thought it would be a different Saints starting offensive guard that would be on the move, with the Seahawks having a lot of interest in Cesar Ruiz, but that never came to fruition. Ruiz is a difficult player to trade for, as he's had a successful career to some degree, but hasn't looked great the past two seasons. So the value there is probably a little bit iffy on both sides. But just Trevor Penning, that trade was very out of nowhere. He does rank 50 out of 59 offensive guards in the NFL and PFF rank with a total of 50% of the snaps played with a 50.4 overall grade. So some would argue that the Saints offensive line just got better from this move. It's definitely up there with one of the worst first-round picks during the Mickey Loomis era, along with Marcus Davenport and Peyton Turner. And this also opens the door for the Saints to see what they have in the young gun that they are very high on in Torricelli Simpkins, undrafted free agent out of, I believe, South Carolina. But yeah, this move made sense on the Chargers end with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater both going down with season-ending injuries. But all I have to say to the Chargers and to their fans is if they have to move Trevor Penning back out to tackle, good luck. What were your thoughts on the Trevor Penning trade?
Yeah, I saw a lot of Chargers fans kind of happy with the move, and I was like, ooh, you don't understand. This isn't just trading for a starting offensive lineman. There's baggage behind this. I actually wrote with one of my PFSN articles about the trade. It was definitely shocking. And as you said, no one really expected it. And the fact it happened as like a buzzer beater is the last deal. I think the Jets made a deal, and it was reported after the fact, but it was almost the last deal that was made in the trade deadline. And I know all of us were like, oh, please make another move. You can't just do the Rashid Shaheed move. But they're now they're kind of free from Trevor Penning. It was always felt like it was a project that the Saints kept trying to fix every single time, moving him all throughout the offensive line, and it just wasn't working. And per PFSN's offensive line impact ranking, they have him ranked 40. So it's also another low ranking of just you're not getting a starting offensive lineman here for the Chargers. And the fact that the Saints got anything in this deal,
Right.
That's the first thing. I don't care if it's 2027 or 2026. It could have been 2030. I don't care. The fact the Saints got something in this deal, and the fact it wasn't a 7th-round pick, I don't know how it was more than that. I don't know how it was a 6th-round pick, which what it was. It was definitely a shocking trade, and the fact that the Saints got something actually decent out of it is a home run move.
Absolutely. And look, he probably would have walked in free agency anyways, as would the next guy we're about to talk about who was dealt. Rashid Shaheed, fan favorite. That one definitely stung. But look, if you're not making moves that sting, you're not doing it right in a rebuild. The Saints were heading into this trade deadline with just 5 picks. And as a rebuilding team, you can't do that. It's not feasible to stack up on those young players that you need to set the foundation for the future. But they now have 7 or 8 now, or no, 7, because Trevor Penning was a future pick. But yeah, Rashid Shaheed, that, like I said, it stung. It's a fan favorite ever since he stepped foot on the field, scored a touchdown on his first ever touch. But it needed to happen. The move needed to happen. He suffered 3 major knee injuries in his career. He's not getting any younger. He's 27 years old. Plus, he would probably be commanding around the $26 million per year range. And the Saints have made it clear that Chris Olave is in their long-term plans. They've been negotiating contract extensions with him throughout the season. So you can't keep both. You had to choose. And they went with the 25-year-old first-round pick over the 27-year-old former undrafted free agent. But I do like the value of the trade. The Saints, they were adamant on getting a third-round pick, ended up getting a fourth and a fifth, which basically is equivalent to the value of a third-round pick. And teams weren't budging on the third-round pick because once that Jacoby Myers deal was set with the Raiders and the Jaguars, I believe, that set the market for the rest of the day for the wide receiver market. And the Saints got what they could, and they had to make the deal now because now you don't have to worry about overspending in free agency and losing that comp pick. So it was a deal that needed to happen, and it also opens the door for more Devon Vele snaps, which we've been very vocal on. That needs to happen. Another 27-year-old who's in his prime that you need to get the best out of. So I think the move needed to happen. I wasn't happy about it. Definitely ruined my day yesterday because, I mean, we all love Rashid Shaheed. He's going to have so much success in Seattle, though, reuniting with Clint Kubiak, former offensive coordinator of the Saints, who we had a lot of success with. He'll be lining up to another Ohio State Buckeye wide receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, a budding superstar over there. And you also have Sam Darnold, who loves to throw the deep ball. He's been awesome at it this season. Rashid Shaheed's going to have a ton of explosive plays in Seattle. I'm happy for him. This is good for his career and good for the Saints' future. It just came to an unfortunate end.
Yeah, and one of my other articles that I wrote was how the Saints could win the NFL trade deadline, how they can be winners, because I said how last year they were winners. The Marshawn Lattimore deal was, I mean, one of the best values deals we've seen in a while. And one of the things I said was, no matter what, to start off with, you need to trade Rashid Shaheed. It was a necessity at that point because, as you said, you can't have Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed on this roster after that trade deadline because one of them is going to leave no matter what. Like it's just not, you're not going to sign both for a rebuilding team where there's so many issues. And then the other thing was Rashid Shaheed was probably going to get you the best value out of any of the players you were willing to trade. And obviously there's been so many conversations with like, okay, the Saints could have gotten this for this player, but they didn't want to deal with the price. Rashid Shaheed was also probably the most like expendable good asset that the Saints had, where the other good assets would have been like, oh, but we're really in pain with that group, with that position group. With Rashid Shaheed, it was a little bit different. And for the Seahawks, it's a home run trade. I don't care. Like, this is an amazing trade for the Seahawks. He's going back to Kubiak's system. Like, it's a perfect trade for them. And look, they gave up a fourth and a fifth round pick in the end for a team competing. That doesn't matter as much. For a team rebuilding, that's amazing. For the Saints, it's also an amazing trade. Do I think it's an A+ home run? No. A third-round pick would have been that. Yeah. But is it close? A B+? Absolutely. You got basically a third-round pick just in two players, which if the Saints do what they did last draft and just have great picks with almost every selection besides the 7th round, those are two possible starters. And that's kind of why we've been having the conversation of, hey, the Saints need to have as many picks as possible going into the draft. No trading up. Rather, you trade down because you need more picks. And now you have 7 picks right now. And then if the Isaac Adam, if he doesn't play too many snaps this season, you get that comp pick also, which would be 8, which is a good total to have. But I still like more draft picks, 100%. I would love the Saints to still do work in the offseason. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do with players like Cesar Ruiz, because he's going to be under contract and still expendable. But 8 is a great start, and the Saints completed what they needed to do this trade deadline.
Absolutely, and they were definitely gearing up to move on from one of these wide receivers. You saw they made that deal for Devon Vele for that 4th-round pick earlier in the offseason. Also went out and made a trade with the New England Patriots for Jalen Polk, who is going to have a role on this team next season. He's on IR, so we will miss the rest of this season. But the Saints were gearing up. They added some firepower, and I guarantee they will select somebody in this draft class as a pass catcher. So we'll see where that somewhere somebody.
It's a great wide receiver somewhere.
Somewhere. But then also I wanted to kind of ask you, were you upset that the Saints didn't make any more moves? I know there were guys like Carl Granderson and Pete Werner who were rumored to be getting looked at by other teams. Alontae Taylor, who was very close to being traded to the Indianapolis Colts before Sauce Gardner was actually dealt. There were just some holes that didn't fall in the Saints' favor. We saw the 49ers make a trade with the New England Patriots for Keon White. That took a spot from Carl Granderson that he could have potentially been a good trade destination for. That same thing with the Cowboys. They went out and traded for Bengals team captain Logan Wilson. That would have been a great spot for Pete Werner. The Cowboys have been a linebacker needy team all season. So those those two spots probably would have been where the other two went. But I'm wondering what your opinion are. What your opinion is. Do you think the Saints should have made more moves, or do you think they tried to?
So my viewpoint is with a lot of the players that people are focusing on right now, the Ruiz, Alante Taylor, Carl Granderson, I think for Ruiz's case, yes, I would have loved if he got traded, but the issue is that just like I don't know what his market was. I don't know how that was. With Alante Taylor and Carl Granderson, it's a little bit different because although I wanted those players to be traded, and specifically Alante Taylor, because if he is going to leave this offseason, then get something out of it. But also if the Saints are truly like banking on a comp pick and no one was going to give them like a 4th round pick, but they think they're going to get a 4th round pick from Alante Taylor leaving, then that might have changed something. I know that was also thought process for Rashid Shaheed, but I'm kind of like picking at things right now. So I'm not really that upset. The one player that 100% I'm like, why didn't you trade him? And look, if Trevor Penning had a market, I'm not sure how this person didn't have a market. Yeah. Pete Werner should have been traded no matter what, 7th round pick, 6th round pick. I don't care, because here's the thing. The difference from the other 3 players that I talked about, those players are less expendable. Pete Werner is probably the most expendable person on the Saints roster right now. Like I'm writing an article right now, but it's about Pete Werner. Like he avoided the trade deadline, but should not start. There's no reason Pete Werner should start, because in my opinion, the only reason you were starting Pete Werner in the past couple of weeks was so that his trade value just wasn't destroyed. But there's no thought process with that anymore. Pete Werner is not playing as well as Isaiah Stallbird or Danny Sussman right now. So there's no reason he should be playing. And that's kind of why I was like, why not trade Pete Werner for a 7th round pick if it's available? You traded 7th round pick for Jalen Polk just as kind of a dart throw. Might as well just have extra picks, and look, maybe you trade up with it or something. It's just another asset to have rather than having Pete Werner, because his value is only going down from here. So that's probably the one player I was angry about. But look, the Saints completed what I wanted them to complete. Would it have been better? 100% if certain players were traded, but I think it's enough for the little expectations I think we had for the Saints to actually make moves. It was enough.
Fair enough. And you said it best. I mean, Danny Stutzman and Isaiah Stallbird are severely outplaying Pete Werner. When they are on the field, they are making plays. They are impact players. We've seen Danny Stutzman take on that leadership role as well. We really need to start letting him see the field, especially with Demario Davis getting older. I think it's time. And that brings me to my next point, where Kellen Moore might already be taking that initiative. On Sunday, we saw Alvin Kamara fumble against the Rams with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. He only saw 1 snap after that. So it looks like Kellen Moore has finally started benching players that are affecting the team in a negative way. Maybe not the best person to make that example with in Alvin Kamara, when you have guys like Danny Stutzman and Jawan Johnson, who did catch a touchdown on Sunday. But I think that's a good sign, because, look, we all know how high a stature of a player Alvin Kamara is, his history with the franchise, the respect he has around the league. If you're willing to bench him, you should be willing to bench a lot of players on this team. And I think Pete Werner's right in that category, especially with those guys breathing down his neck for that starting spot. But I will transition this into kind of a little bit of a recap of the Rams game and some injuries that happened of that game. Pretty significant one as well. Taliese Fuaga went down with a high ankle sprain, was carted off the field, was not seen in a boot after the game, but is not expected to play this week against the Panthers. Same for Jack Stoll, who also suffered a high ankle sprain. And Cesar Ruiz also went down against the Rams, so who knows, maybe that affected the trade as well with the Seahawks. Because he's went down a couple of times this year. He hasn't missed any time, but he's definitely went down in a couple of games. So those are the injuries that we have any information on right now. The Saints have yet to release an injury report, so we are unaware of anything else at this point. But I kind of wanted to talk about the Rams game a little bit. The Saints are 1-8, their worst start in 45 years. The last and only time they were 1-8 was in 1980, when they had the paper bags, the Aints paper bags over their heads. The Saints are entering a really dark era right now. It's time to embrace that rebuild. On Sunday, it seemed like they were battling themselves as much as their opponents. Their 16 minutes and 7 seconds time of possession was the 13th lowest in NFL history, while their 40 offensive plays against the Rams was tied for the second fewest in a game this season. Kellen Moore said that the 40 snaps compared to the Rams' 77 offensive snaps was because the Rams controlled the third quarter. But I think that's a coaching issue. I don't think that has anything to do with the players. I mean, it obviously does because they're on the field, but you can't get yourself in these holes. That's been a problem all season long. And when you're standing there with your head in a clipboard, not firing up your guys all by yourself alone on the sideline, you're just not doing that. I think Kellen Moore needs to take a little bit more initiative with this football team, really let a fire in them.
Yeah, I think with the game, there's a lot of issues. 100%. I mean, the Saints' pass defense was
Horrid.
picked apart. And people are blaming Brandon Staley. I'm not blaming Brandon Staley. This defense is not set up to play his scheme. It's not. There's no outside linebackers. There's no zone corners besides kind of Quincy Riley. Like this team, both linebackers are supposed to be very good run defenders in Brandon Staley's defense, and Demario Davis is the only one.
Unless
Danny Sletman's on the field.
Yeah.
It's not set up. I'm not blaming Brandon Staley in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. My main blame is probably with Kellen Moore because he did not have a good game, and it feels like a regression point, which is not good, which is horrible, which is worst case scenario for first year. I'm not even like. I know, and you mentioned it, there's a big concern with Kellen Moore just not like being a coach on the sidelines. 100% get that concern. I think the one argument I would have for it, or to play devil's advocate, would be that this is his first year commanding a whole team. Where I think he's kind of getting in his head a little bit, which makes sense with how rare this team is. That he needs to. He's kind of focusing more on the game, more focusing on the X's and O's and not the players as much right now, where I think just with more practice, with more game experience, that's going to change. But in that case, but also going off of that, I think his game plan to start the game was not the best. The runs down the middle with Alvin Kamara, we need to stop. I'll get to Alvin Kamara in a second. We can't be running down the middle twice with Alvin Kamara. That's not going to work. And I think it goes back to kind of week one against the Cardinals where Kellen Moore was kind of scared to really give Spencer Rattler the game plan, really let him cook. And he was Kellen Moore was similar with that with Tyler Shuck this game. But as soon as they kind of let Tyler Shuck go, he had a great game. He had a really good game. There were mistakes. He had a horrible sack in the second drive of the game, but he had a really good game. Something to build upon. There were definitely great things. Obviously, there's things to work on, but almost everything that happened, the one also big glaring point past that sack was Tyler Shuck missing Rashid Shaheed on the deep throw, and the next day everyone saw the replay and Rashid Shaheed slowed down.
Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, but Rashid Shaheed slowed down, which has been an issue this whole season with the wide receivers. So, there wasn't a lot to blame with Tyler Shuck. I felt like it was more a scheme issue last game. I felt like it was, and oh my God. Then Kellen Moore putting in Taysom Hill twice in a row. Okay, Juwan Johnson had the worst block I've ever seen in my life, and it would have been a touchdown probably. Don't get me wrong. But Tyler Shuck was cooking that drive. Tyler Shuck was having another great drive. You can't take it out of his hands, which I get it. In theory, take all the pressure off of Tyler Shuck. That is a good move. But he's cooking. Let him cook. You need to do that. And and again, I'll play devil's advocate with Kellen Moore. There was a challenge call that Kellen Moore did not even see the replay, and he threw the challenge flag. I get the decision, honestly. The Saints were not coming back by that point unless a turnover was made. So he saw the ball hit the ground. It was a little bit close from perspective. Throw it. Why not? You want to get some juice with this team. I get it. I don't mind that. In retrospect, it looks worse, but something had to happen. So just with the game, I think it was definitely a regression game. The issues really showed up. Kellen Moore didn't look good. There were but I guess the best thing happened. Tyler Shuck did look good against all odds. Was it a home run game? No way. I saw every throw. It was not a home run game, but was it better than, was it as good as what Spencer Rattler was doing? Yes. And you're getting that in a rookie year. That's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about letting him cook, there was a fourth down play where they put Taysom Hill at quarterback. If you're evaluating a rookie quarterback, you want to see how he handles those situations, especially when the game's already out of your hands. I don't know if I agree with that approach. I get trying to put your best foot forward, put your team in the best position, but at some point you have to embrace that developmental season, that developmental roster, and see what you have in those guys. But I agree with you. Tyler Shuck, he exceeded my expectations. Obviously, having your first start against a feisty Rams pass rush like that, and him having trouble with pressure throughout his career.
Plus the offensive line issues.
Yes, I thought he did an excellent job. Had that really impressive 2-minute drill, 6 plays, 71 yards with 47 seconds left inside the 2-minute warning. Responded well to a shot to the head. That was a really big hit, too. Found Olave to continue the drive, which was Olave's first catch of the game with 36 seconds left in the half. And then found Jawan Johnson for a touchdown to respond. That was a really encouraging drive from the rookie. If we could see more of that. And look, that's another point. It seems like the Saints, both quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck, have found the most success in this 2-minute drill offense. If it's working, stick with it. If they like to play fast and use that pace that you emphasized earlier in the season, then stick with it. If it's going to put your quarterbacks in the best place to succeed, especially with such a iffy offensive line, then I think you have to just stick with what's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, the good old saying. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Kellen Moore said Tyler Shuck despite the results, had a positive performance, said it was definitely something to build on. And I also like to see Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener being happy for Shuck after his touchdown drive. It was good to see that the morale's still there in the locker room, even through these hard times. But yeah, I would like to kind of turn to the Saints rushing attack for a second. Taysom Hill's 29-yard rush was the Saints' only rush of more than 4 yards against the Rams. 29 of their 53 rushing yards came on one play, and if you take that out, they averaged 2.4 yards per carry. And guess what? Taysom Hill only saw 9 snaps, 22% of the snaps. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my message for Kellen Moore today. If it's working, just do it. I mean, it feels like he's steering away from all the stuff that's making this offense successful.
Yeah, let's talk about Devin Neal because
Drew's
not here. Oh, we got to talk about Devin Neal. That was some of the most watching the Saints play the Bucs 2 weeks ago and Devin Neal not get a snap might have been the most infuriating football of my life. But it might have been even more infuriating to see Devin Neal finally get the ball,
be successful,
consistently get yards, and then taken away from us. It was so bad. The thing was, look, I love Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is one of my favorite Saints players ever. But that fumble was heartbreaking because Tyler Shuck was starting. It was the first drive of the third quarter with 6 minutes left in the quarter. First drive, Shuck playing well already. And then Alvin Kamara fumbles it, and then the drive stalled. It felt like when Shuck came in against the Bucs and the drive stalled, and it was just like, oh, nothing is working. Kamara got benched after that. Great. But somehow Devin Neal still didn't get the ball, and it was like, I love Taysom Hill. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because when the blocking is good, it works. But when the blocking isn't good, like we saw in that fourth down play, it doesn't work. But the thing is with Devin Neal, if the blocking is bad or good, it's going to work. That's why I was like, please put in just Devin Neal once, like on these 4th and short or on these 3rd and short, because he's probably going to pick it up. But for some reason, they just still do not give Devin Neal the ball, even when they say they're going to give Devin Neal the ball. And it goes back to that conversation of young players. There's a real reality where this is Alvin Kamara's last season. He retires after this year, and it is a mutual decision because there's a clear lack of play on the field. Now, again, I'm going to defend Kamara a little bit because the run blocking is horrendous right now. Trevor Penning was bad in run blocking, which is, by the way, the one thing he was supposed to be good at.
Yeah.
He was good at it as tackle, not as guard. No. He couldn't pick up blitzes either. That's another story. Cesar Ruiz also struggling in run blocking. And then Jawan Johnson cannot run block. So the three
Block ball.
pieces that are very important for your run blocking right now cannot run block. And that's why, look, moving on from Penning made sense. I wanted them to move on from Cesar Ruiz, but that's okay. They didn't, whatever. Now at left guard, there's going to be a change, and I honestly believe the run game is going to be better because Penning is out. Will that work for Alvin Kamara? I don't know. Will that work for Devin Neal? 100%.
Yeah, and look, we saw Alvin Kamara also drop a fourth down reception.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I mean, I like you said, we love Alvin Kamara. There's no other Saints that has a love for him or that has as much love than him. And I just don't know if you can keep him on the field at this point. If the ankle injury is that bad, then maybe he shouldn't be playing. That's just my opinion on that. And look, regarding the run blocking in Jawan Johnson, before Jack Stoll went down with that high ankle sprain, he's known for being a good blocker. You have Foster Moreau still on your roster who is known for being a good blocker. Why are you not putting them in for those drives? I mean, obviously you don't want that. I believe it was 2022, 2023 when Lynn Bowden would go on the field and you already knew the Saints were running. You don't want that to be the case with those two tight ends. But if you can put them in that position, then the run game could find a lot of success. Devin Neal, he literally saw 16 snaps for 39% of the snaps with just 3 carries. And look, I know the numbers are going to be a bit skewed this week with the Saints having just 40 snaps, but I still think that's too low. Like you said, when Alvin Kamara was benched, we really didn't see much Devin Neal. It doesn't make much sense to me, especially because we know that the Saints are lacking juice in the backfield. And like you said, Taysom Hill can provide that, but he's not a running back. You need a running back that can provide that juice in the backfield. You need that good ball carrier vision that I don't know if Taysom Hill provides for you. Those are just the small things that are really making this offense not click. Because we know Kellen Moore found a lot of success throughout his career with his offenses in the run game. That just has not translated to New Orleans yet. And I don't know if we can say the same about like we have with the defense and the players not matching the scheme. I think they match the scheme fairly well. I just don't know if it's just not clicking right now. And I really don't have any excuses for it because Kellen Moore, he should know better than that. That's all I can say on that. He should know better than that. But we'll kind of transfer that into you have somewhere else?
Real quick, Audric Estime did just get signed to the active roster. So that might mean something with Alvin Kamara's injury where they might just sit him this week, say, look, your injury is clearly affecting your play, which if that is the case, and this is because we went through this like 3 years ago, I think, where Alvin Kamara was injured, but they were just kind of keeping quiet about it, or it wasn't that bad to keep him out of games, and his play was bad. Came back next year, looked dynamic. Like that could be what we're going through. We could definitely be jumping the gun here, but it's just with the age, 30 years old, running back, it's starting to get a little scary, starting to get to that time. So the fact that the Saints signed Audric Estime, who's on the practice squad, to the active roster, who is more of a Devin Neal than Alvin Kamara, like it kind of shows either Devin Neal's out, which would be a surprise, or they're going to rest Alvin Kamara for this next game, which it's against the Panthers. I would rather them go with the young players.
Absolutely. Sticking on the topic of running backs and the Panthers, Rico Dowdle has looked very good for the Panthers over the past couple of weeks. They are going to have a challenge. I believe Chuba Hubbard's back as well. So they're going to have a tandem back there to deal with. Rico Dowdle has 735 rushing yards on the year with 4 rushing touchdowns and an 82.1 overall rushing grade. He's been a great signing for Carolina after heading over from the Cowboys. And look, the Saints' run defense still is just not there. It's really bad. Look, we've talked about Brian Brazee's progress, but the run defense is just really one of his weaknesses. He's still a great pass rusher, gets a lot of pressure, but I don't know if you can trust that interior against this Panthers run game. And Bryce Young's starting to find his rhythm as well. So this is definitely going to be a tough matchup for New Orleans. The Panthers, for the first time, and I can't even tell you when, are in the wild card hunt. So it is going to be interesting. I will be at that game, so I will try to be putting some bad juju on them. But what are your thoughts on this week's game?
Yeah, if the Saints lose this game, there's 2 ways. There's legitimately only 2 ways I see the Saints lose this game, which good odds. Rico Dowdle, because he can just go for 200 yards and just change the whole dynamic of a game, which the Saints' run defense is not good. And if Pete Werner's out there, I truly think he's going to go for 200 yards. And then the second way is Tyler Shuck throws more than one interception.
Yeah.
Because the other thing the Panthers are good at is getting turnovers. With this, their pass defense is very good this year. And that's the only reason they're in games with the run game. Like, Bryce Young has not had to do anything. And like, he came back and they won. Andy Dalton had too many, when Bryce Young was out, Andy Dalton came in and he had too many negative plays for them to win some games. Like, he was causing a lot of negative plays. Bryce Young just needs to like not do anything and it works. Which, look, I don't have that much belief in Bryce Young. I think that the Panthers are floating around that like mid stage right now where it's like, is he a quarterback that could lead us to winning, or is just everything around us good? So I don't think Bryce Young's going to be the reason the Panthers win this game, knock on wood. But I do think that the Panthers' run game and pass defense would be the reason they run away with this game. Which, do I think that's going to happen? We'll probably get to that later. But definitely things to watch out for.
Yeah, and I'd like to see some more Alontae Taylor blitz packages against the Panthers. We saw it happen a couple times against the Rams where he just barely missed, wasn't able to get home. But we did also see him have that hell of a hit in the backfield for that tackle for loss. You could hear that from across the country. That was a huge hit. So I would like to see Alontae Taylor in those blitz packages a bit more, especially because that's where he got 2 sacks against last year against the Panthers. So if they can repeat that again, that would really bolster the defense and help them a lot in this game. Kind of get the Panthers out of their rhythm early. The Panthers, they've won, I believe, 5 games, but they've been pretty close in all those games and have not scored too many points. They're not a very high scoring offense. So this is a game that I think the Saints are definitely in, but I can't see them coming out of it. So I guess we can take that into our bold predictions and game picks for that game. So we can go ahead and get those. My bold predictions, I will start. I have Tyler Shuck throwing for 2 touchdowns without committing a single turnover. Like you said, if he's able to do that, I have a lot of faith in the Saints to win this game. Devon Bailey is going to be getting a lot more snaps now, which should be. So maybe we'll see him in the red zone. Maybe we'll see him on those short yardage downs that the Saints have been looking for. I also have Devin Neal rushing for a touchdown, his first of his career. We better see a lot more Devin Neal, like you said. If the Saints are adding a running back to their active roster, that's a sign of something. And with Alvin Kamara dealing with that ankle injury, it just makes sense that that's probably what it's about. And even if Alvin Kamara is not inactive for that game, I still think Devin Neal gets a heavy workload. But look, we've said that for the past couple of weeks now, so I have no idea what's going to happen there. Hopefully he does. Then I also have Chase Young recording his 4th straight game with a sack. Last week he had a sack once again, making it the first time in his career he's had a 3-game stretch with a sack. He's really just looked the part this season. Really outstanding addition or extension for the Saints. I feel like they got him at great value now that we've seen how he's been playing. And look, he's still young. He's still a guy that you can build around on this defense. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Chase Young this season. Those are my bold predictions. For a final score, this is definitely going to be a low-scoring game. I think I'm going to go with Carolina 16, New Orleans 14. I don't see this being a shootout by any means. If anything, I see more interceptions than touchdowns in this game, if I'm just being honest with you. But those are my takes. What are your takes for this week's game?
You know what? I was going to say the Saints were going to lose. I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore. We'll get to that in a second. I'm going to change one of my bold predictions because if I'm going to choose the Saints to win, I need to change one of those bold predictions. So for right now, I have 2 until I think of a third one. One, Brian Brzee, I think he's going to have 2 sacks in this game. I think he's going to do really well in this game. As you said, Devin Neal, I really think he could get, I'm going to say 50 yards and 1 touchdown. I think he's going to be more important to this current lineup, and I think he needs to get the snaps to have any success in the run game, which if Kellen Moore is trying to get Tyler Shuck into gear and just ready, run the ball, make it work. And hopefully with the new blocking, it does work. My third one is that Pete Werner is benched. Pete Werner does not come out with the defense to start the game. I think it's the best move for everyone. I think it's the best move for the future of this team. I think it's the best move for the current win or chance of winning any game. So I think the move needs to be made. So now with me choosing the Saints are going to win, I'm going to say the Saints win 13-10, just like you said. Very, very close game. And I honestly think it's 13-10 with 2 touchdowns and 1 missed extra point. I think it gives the Panthers the chance to tie the game, but they don't tie the game. So it's going to be a close game no matter what, though. Unless the Panthers do what they did to the Falcons, which was like 40-3.
That was the one exception.
Yeah.
I guess they have put up some points this year. Put up 30 against Dallas. Put up 27.
The running game, I'm telling you, it's scary. It is scary.
Yeah. Whenever they have a good running game. When they played Dallas, that's when Rico Dowdle had like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, it's going to be a game that it's a toss-up, honestly. Whatever team comes out for the Panthers is going to decide this game because we know, look, the Saints might be a bad team, but they put effort up. They try out there. They're not putting half effort out there. You know what I mean? So hopefully that the Panthers come out in their negative state this weekend and the Saints can notch a win because it is not fun sitting at 1-8. But that'll wrap up today's episode. We will see you guys next week after the game. Hopefully the Saints are able to pull it off. I believe it's the Saints bye week next week.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll have some bye week talk for you next week as well as a recap. So we'll see you later. Thank you for tuning in.